could, in principle, fix almost anything that is wrong with the brain.
The fear is that eventually you're going to have to cut the whole top of someone's head off and put a new top
Sure.
with a whole bunch of wires if you want to get, the real turbocharged version, the P100D of brain stimulation.
I mean, ultimately, if you want to go with full AI symbiosis, you'll probably want to do something like that.
Symbiosis is a scary word when it comes to AI.
It's optional.
I would hope so.
Elon Musk, the tech genius, just did an interview at the CNS annual meeting where he revealed some seriously controversial stuff he's never discussed before. You won't find it on any other YouTube channel yet. So let's watch it together and dissect some spicy parts of the interview. Neuralink. If you know about Elon Musk, you've probably heard of his Neuralink project. If not, it's a groundbreaking technology designed to create a direct connection between the human brain and computers. This device functions as a miniature computer implanted in the brain, with ultra-thin threads embedded in specific areas to interact with neurons. Many people assumed this device was primarily intended for patients with neurological conditions like paralysis.
It just became intuitive for me to start imagining the cursor moving. Basically, it was like using the force on a cursor, and I could get it to move wherever I wanted. Just stare somewhere in the screen, and it would move where I wanted it to, which was such a wild experience.
However, in a recent interview, Elon revealed something unimaginable. He revealed that his plans for this device reach beyond just treating neurological conditions, and the possibilities are both thrilling and terrifying. Thought-controlled devices. Elon Musk was asked to share his founder story and the motivation behind his interest in brain-computer interfaces, particularly with Neuralink. The interviewer wanted to understand what drove Musk to explore such advanced technology. Musk began his response by acknowledging that his fascination might sound esoteric to some.
Well, this is going to sound somewhat esoteric and maybe a bit strange, but I was actually trying to figure out how to mitigate the risk of digital superintelligence to the degree that we can improve our bandwidth to our digital tertiary self. I think we can better align artificial intelligence with a collective human will. This is going to sound very strange, but so you can think of basically our intelligence as being divided into roughly three areas. There's sort of like a limbic system, like the sort of instinctual elements, the sort of like the cortex and the planning part. Then we also have a tertiary layer, which is all the computers and phones, applications, software that we use. So that you have a digital tertiary self. Basically, we're already an android, effectively. I think people feel this when they forget their phone. Forgetting your phone, leaving your phone behind is like having missing limb syndrome. You're missing part of your digital tertiary. The constraint on human-machine symbiosis is bandwidth. What is especially output bandwidth? The output bandwidth of a human is less than 1 bit per second over the course of a day. So if you have 86,400 seconds in a day, the number of output bits that you produce, maybe there's some rare cases where it's above 1 bit per second, but very few people produce 86,400 output bits. So most people are averaging less than 1 bit per second over a 24-hour period. And when we do speak, they say the number of symbols per second of speech typing is quite low, especially if it's going through a phone. Then you just sort of have two slow-moving meat sticks that are trying to type letters on a phone. So you really have just a few taps per second of characters. So your phone is like a supercomputer in your hands, and it is desperately trying to figure out what you want to say.
So his aim, he explained, was to enhance the bandwidth of communication between the human brain and digital devices, which he believes could align artificial intelligence more closely with human intentions. human AI symbiosis. Discussing the integration of human cognition with AI, Musk stated,
Basically, I thought, okay, in order to have better human AI symbiosis, we must solve the bandwidth problem. Below a certain bandwidth, we are basically just stationary to a computer. And at 1 bit per second, that's a very low data rate when computers are doing trillions of bits per second.
So when you think about brain-machine interface, why did you select the technical approach you did? I know a lot of thought's gone into that.
Yeah, so if you say like, okay, we need to have ultimately 1 million bits per second or a billion bits per second, gigabit per second interface, then that means you need an implant. And ultimately we'll need to replace the skull, and it's going to be a zillion wire. I mean, this is some sci-fi, bizarre sci-fi stuff, and I'm not, this is certainly optional, hopefully.
Mandatory replacement of my skull would have been a problem.
Mandatory chip and brain is not what we're saying here for sure.
Future of brain surgery. When Elon Musk was asked about the massive challenges behind Neuralink's brain surgery technology, he explained how the process requires precision robots to perform surgeries, as it's physically impossible for humans to manually carry out millions of these operations.
I think it'll be something similar to LASIK, where you have perhaps a neurosurgeon overseeing half a dozen or a dozen of the Neuralink robots that are doing the implants, and just obviously making sure it's the right implant in the right location for the right purpose, and that everything's okay with the patient. So it would be like a massive amplification. I think it's kind of necessary that it be a massive amplification, because there simply are not enough neurosurgeons to do this all by hand. It's like physically impossible.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about ultimately doing tens of millions of these things. Like maybe there's 8 billion people in the world. I don't know, maybe at least a few billion are going to want this, maybe more.
So this feels like the right place to ask, I think, one of the more interesting questions we received. So as someone who's in a position of authority to comment on both, can you settle the age-old question, what's actually more difficult, brain surgery or rocket science?
Well, they're both quite challenging. It's bizarre that I'm involved in both. I mean, I think they're of similar magnitude of difficulty, especially
So the story checks out.
Yes. I think nobody's out there thinking, what's easy? Brain surgery and rockets.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for backing us up. We appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. No, that's legit. Brain surgery is super hard and rockets are super hard, and there's a reason that they're idiomatic expressions. This is no accident.
Living in simulations. While discussing these groundbreaking advancements, Elon Musk also shared a small hint, or perhaps a near-future prediction, that neural interfaces could help map brain functions by detecting subtle differences in how neurons fire. He compared this concept to a sci-fi idea where memories are uploaded to the cloud, allowing people to either live in simulations or be reinstantiated in new bodies.
You look at the things at a fine-grained level and say, well, what is the size of the voltage difference that you're trying to detect in a neuron, and how, so therefore, like, how far away from an electrode could you detect a pulse? And can you distinguish one neuron from another neuron based on its signature? So like if one neuron has almost like an accent or a voice, if your sensors are precise enough, you can say, okay, that sort of faint voice we hear, or that faint signal is this neuron, this loud signal is a nearby neuron, and you can actually figure out spatially where these neurons are, based on slight differences in how they fire.
And that's how you're going to map the function of the brain and get a step closer to that whole brain interface.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely are venturing into deep sci-fi here. If people are interested in some sci-fi book recommendations, I would recommend Ian Banks, the culture books. And Ian Banks actually does have this concept of a neural lace, where all the humans have a neural link or neural lace throughout their brain. And when somebody dies, their memories are being dynamically uploaded to the cloud or whatever the internet is in the future. They can reinstantiate into a human body if they want. Or they can live in simulation, which we might be in right now. If so, I'd just like to applaud the simulators on the excellent work they are doing.
This feels very immersive and high fidelity, so thank you to our simulator overloads.
Thank you, simulators. Please don't turn us off.
Yeah.
I'm planning to create a separate video diving deeper into these topics, so make sure to subscribe and watch this video on your screen if you want to know more about the future.